A wooden fishing boat, 20 feet long, maybe 25, crowded with grown men who smell of sweat and salt, and the bottom of the Sea of Galilee. It is dusk. The water is glass, until it isn't. A wind comes down from the cliffs in the east, the kind of wind the fishermen on this lake have feared for 1,000 years. Cold air, dropping fast from the heights of Mount Hermon, funneled through the ravines and exploding across the water without warning. The men have seen this before, but not like this. The waves are climbing higher than the rails of the boat. The sail is straining at the rope. Water is coming in faster than they can throw it out. You can hear the men shouting now. You can almost smell the rope burning in their hands. And in the back of the boat, at the stern, on a leather cushion the steersman uses to brace his knees, the carpenter from Nazareth is asleep, not pretending, not praying with his eyes closed, asleep. His chest rises and falls. His mouth is slightly open. The boat is shaking like an earthquake on water, and he does not move. One of the men finally breaks. He stumbles to the back, grabs the rabbi by the shoulder, and shouts 6 words that have echoed through the church for 2,000 years. Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? It is the most honest sentence a frightened person has ever spoken to God. And it is the wrong question. Here's what most people miss. The 4 Gospels are obsessively detailed. They record what Jesus ate. They record where he sat. They record when he wept, when he sighed, when he looked up to heaven, when he looked down at the ground. They record him praying dozens of times. They record him walking hundreds of miles. They record his last words on a cross with surgical precision. But sleeping? He sleeps once. In the entire public ministry of Jesus Christ, 3 years, 4 Gospels, 89 chapters, there is exactly one scene where the Son of God closes his eyes and sleeps. And it is the one we just walked into. And if you have ever wondered why your prayers sometimes feel like shouting at a sleeping God, this is the scene the church has been thinking about for 2,000 years. This is not a story about a tired man. This is not a story about a nap. This is not a story about a missed opportunity to teach. This is a story about a God who took on a body that needed sleep, and a father who never closed his eyes. And one night, on a hill outside Jerusalem, under olive trees older than the city itself, the same man who slept through a hurricane will not sleep at all. While 12 grown men snore in the grass beside him, he will sweat blood and beg his father not to make him drink the cup. We will get to that hill, but not yet. Go back to the boat for a moment. The Gospel of Mark gives us one detail the others leave out. A single Greek word that changes the whole scene. Proskephalaion, the cushion. On a Galilean fishing boat in the 1st century, the proskephalaion was a leather cushion stuffed with wool, kept at the stern, used by the man steering the rudder. It was the captain's seat, the driver's chair, the seat you would not have wanted. And Jesus had not just lain down in the boat. He had taken the captain's cushion at the back of the boat, the most exposed seat, the seat that took the worst of the waves, and put his head down on it. Think about that for a second. Picture where you would have chosen to sit. The middle, where the others were huddled, or the seat of the man steering the boat through the dark. He did not crawl under the bench to hide from the spray. He did not curl up in the dry middle of the boat. He chose the seat of the man in charge, in the worst soaked part of the vessel, and went to sleep. That is not exhaustion. That is sovereignty wearing the clothes of exhaustion. Now look at who was around him. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus, writing only a few decades after this scene, describes the Sea of Galilee in his book, The Jewish War, as a lake notorious for sudden and violent winds. Josephus had commanded troops in Galilee during the revolt against Rome. He had sailed this water. He knew. The storms here are not Mediterranean storms. They are mountain storms, born when cold air rolls off Mount Hermon to the north, funnels through the narrow ravines on the east side, and slams into a lake that sits 700 feet below sea level. The water has nowhere to go, so it climbs. And the men in the boat, Peter, James, John, Andrew, were not tourists. They were not seminary students on a field trip. Peter and Andrew were brothers who had grown up casting nets in this lake. James and his younger brother John worked the same waters with their father Zebedee. These four men knew every cove, every current, every shape a storm could take here. They had probably been through hundreds of squalls before they ever met Jesus. And on this night, they thought they were going to die. The early church historian Eusebius preserves a remarkable detail about this gospel. He quotes a man named Papias, writing around the year 100, who tells us that Mark wrote his gospel as the interpreter of Peter, recording what Peter preached. Which means, when you read Mark's accounts of the storm, you are reading Peter's memory. You are reading the words of the man at the front of the boat, throwing water out with both hands, glancing back at a sleeping rabbi, and feeling the cold certainty that this was the night he would drown. That is the voice behind the question. Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? The Greek does not soften it. Apolamitha. We are perishing right now, not later, not theoretically, right now. You have prayed that prayer. Maybe not with those words. Maybe yours was at 3 a.m, staring at a ceiling, asking why heaven was silent. Maybe yours was in a hospital chapel. Maybe yours was over the phone with a parent who had nothing left to say. The wording was different. The wound was the same. Do you not care that I am perishing? The disciples were not wrong about the storm. They were wrong about the sleep, because they assumed his sleep meant his absence. They assumed if his eyes were closed, his ears were closed. They assumed if his body was at rest, his heart was at rest. But it gets stranger, because for every time the Gospels record Jesus sleeping, there are at least 4 times they record him deliberately staying awake, whole nights, alone, praying, watching. And the more you look at those nights, the more you start to suspect that the one sleep we see was not a contradiction. It was a clue. Augustine of Hippo, preaching to his church in North Africa in the early 5th century, looked at this story and saw something most of us miss. He told them this: Christ slept in the boat, and faith slept in the disciples. The boat was tossed because faith slept. When you are tempted, the wind is blowing. When you are disturbed, the waves are rising. Wake up, Christ. Awaken your faith. Stay with me. Augustine is not gentle here. He is saying the storm in the story is not the real problem. The sleep in the story is not the real problem. The problem is the sleep in the disciples. The sleep that calls itself fear and dresses itself up in panic, but is actually a faith that has closed its eyes. If you are getting something from this, do me one favor. Hit that subscribe button before we go any further, because there are 3 nights of Jesus we still have to talk about. And the last one will change the way you read every word that came before. The Gospels do not give you many windows into the private hours of Jesus. He is almost always with people, teaching, healing, eating, walking. The crowds press in. The Pharisees press in. The disciples press in. There are very few moments where the cameras of the gospel writers turn away from the public Christ and look at the private one. But there are a few, and every single one of them is a night he did not sleep. The first one is in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6. Luke gives it to us in one verse. In these days, he went out to the mountain to pray, and all night he continued in prayer to God. The Greek word Luke uses there is dianekteruo. It is a compound word. Dia, through. Nix, night. He went all the way through the night. He did not nap and pray. He did not catch an hour and start again. He stayed awake the entire dark. Why? Because the next morning he was going to choose 12 men. 12 men who would carry his name into every empire on earth. 12 men who would, with two exceptions, die for the privilege of being his friend. And the night before he made that choice, the rabbi who had slept through a hurricane could not sleep at all. Picture it for a moment. Put yourself on that hillside if you can. A hillside above the Sea of Galilee. The same lake that had tried to drown him is now glass under the stars. Cold air on the slope. Wild thyme under his sandals. And one man alone on his knees, talking to his father about Peter, about John, about a tax collector named Matthew who had stolen from his own people, about a zealot named Simon who carried a knife, about a man named Judas. He prayed for each of them by name. He probably prayed for you too. He knew you would be reading this story 2,000 years later, and he did not sleep. That was the first night. The second one is even quieter. Mark gives it to us in chapter 1, verse 35. And rising very early in the morning, while it was still dark, he departed and went out to a desolate place, and there he prayed. The Greek says, proi enichalian, very early, while the night was still deep, before the cocks, before the sun, before the disciples started moving in the house where they had crashed. The day before, Jesus had healed an entire town. Capernaum. The text says they brought him every sick person they had. Lepers, paralytics, demoniacs, mothers with sick children. The line at his door did not end until the sun went down. He had touched dozens of broken bodies and absorbed the weight of dozens of broken stories. And then, while everyone else slept the deep sleep of the rescued, he got up and walked out into the dark to be alone with his Father. The disciples found him hours later. They were annoyed. You would have been too. They told him everyone was looking for him. He told them they were going somewhere else. And by sunrise, he was on the road again into the next town, into the next crowd. He had not slept, not the way you sleep. That was the second night. The third one is the strangest. Matthew tells it in chapter 14. Jesus had just fed 5,000 men with 5 loaves and 2 fish. The crowd, according to John's parallel account, wanted to come and make him king by force. So he did something stunning. He sent the disciples ahead in a boat, the same lake, the same men, and he dismissed the crowd. And then he went up on a mountain by himself, and he stayed there. The text says, when evening came, he was there alone. It is one of the loneliest sentences in the New Testament. The man who could have been crowned king of Israel that afternoon spent the night on a mountain alone with his Father. And then Matthew tells us when he came back down. In the 4th watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. The 4th watch of the night in the Roman system the Gospels use was the hours between 3 and 6 in the morning, the pre-dawn dark, which means Jesus had been on that mountain the entire night, awake, alone. And then he walked the 7 miles of water in the dark, on the surface of the lake, in a wind that the disciples were once again rowing against. That was the third night. Here's the part nobody tells you. Every storm where Jesus slept, he calmed in seconds. Every night Jesus stayed awake, somebody else's storm was about to begin. He slept through his storm. He stayed awake through ours. He was not absent. He was not unaware. He was not asleep to your storm. He was sleeping as your storm, taking on the exhaustion of your humanity so his Father could keep your soul. And on the nights when he did not sleep, the nights when he chose the 12, the nights when he carried the weight of a healed town, the nights when he walked away from a crown to talk to his Father, those were the nights he was holding the world together with his own bare attention. The Psalms had said it 1,000 years before he was born. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep, and not on the hill outside Jerusalem. Not yet. A garden, olive trees older than the city walls. The moon is full because it is Passover, but the leaves are so thick that almost no light reaches the ground. The air smells of crushed olives. The gat shemen, the oil press, is somewhere in the dark. That is what this place is called. Gethsemane, the press. He has brought 11 men with him. He leaves 8 at the gate. He takes the other 3 deeper into the garden. Peter, James, John, the same 3 who were on the boat, the same 3 who watched him calm the sea with 4 words, the same 3 who knew more than anyone else in human history that this rabbi could sleep through anything. He asked them to stay awake. Just stay awake. And then he walks a stone's throw further into the trees, and he falls on his face in the dirt. Luke, who was a physician, gives us a medical detail no other gospel writer includes. The Greek term is hematidros, bloody sweat. It is not poetry. It is a real condition, documented in medical literature, in which extreme psychological distress ruptures the small capillaries in the sweat glands, and a person begins to sweat actual blood through their pores. It happens to soldiers before execution. It happens to prisoners before torture. It is the body in extremis, betraying what the soul is enduring, and it is dripping onto the dirt of an olive grove from the face of the Son of God. If you have ever wondered how loud the silence of heaven can be, this is what it sounded like. He prays, he begs, he asks his Father 3 times if there is any other way. And then he walks back to find Peter, James, and John. They are asleep. He wakes them. He asks how they could not stay awake 1 hour. He goes back. He prays again. He comes back. They are asleep again. He goes back. He prays a 3rd time. He comes back. They are asleep a 3rd time. Now watch what happens next. Sleep has changed places, and the position you and I assumed Jesus was in, asleep on our storm, has been the position we were in the whole time, asleep on his. The night of the storm, Jesus slept on a cushion while the disciples panicked. The night of Gethsemane, the disciples slept in the grass while Jesus sweated blood. On the lake, his sleep was the calm at the center of their storm. In the garden, his wakefulness was a storm at the center of their calm. He had taken the exhaustion they could not carry, and they had taken the rest he could not afford. Here is what the Psalms had already told us 1,000 years before this moment. Psalm 121. The Hebrew is lo yanum velo yishan. 2 words for sleep. Num, the drowsiness that makes your head nod. Yashen, the deep sleep where the world disappears. The Psalm says, he who keeps Israel will do neither. Not even the nod. Not even the deepening. Not for 1 second of one night. will the eyes of the God of Israel close. For 2,000 years, Christians have read that verse without seeing what Gethsemane shows them. When Jesus slept on the boat, his humanity rested while his divinity kept the watch. When Jesus stayed awake in the garden, his humanity refused the rest his divinity could have given him. Because if his eyes had closed in that olive press, even for an hour, there would have been no mourning on the cross, no silence in the tomb, no stone rolled away. He stayed awake so the rest of us could be saved. In April of 1945, in a Nazi prison in Berlin, a German pastor named Dietrich Bonhoeffer was waiting to be hanged. He had been arrested for plotting against Hitler. He had spent almost 2 years in a cell barely wider than his arms. And in one of the last letters he wrote to his fiancée, a young woman named Maria, he told her something that has haunted readers ever since. He told her that he was sleeping, in his words, deeply and well. He referenced the boat in Mark 4. Christ slept in the boat, he wrote, so can I. 3 weeks later, on April 9th, they walked Bonhoeffer to the gallows. The doctor at the camp later said he had never seen a man die so completely at peace. The boat scene was not a one-time miracle. It was a model. Bonhoeffer slept the way Jesus slept, because Jesus had already stayed awake the way none of us could. And there, in the garden called Gethsemane, the carpenter from Nazareth did not sleep. Not for 1 minute, not for 1 second. He stayed awake while his closest friends snored in the grass. He stayed awake while a man named Judas was leading soldiers up the hill with torches. He stayed awake while the cup he had begged to pass was being poured. He stayed awake for you. The man who once slept on a cushion in a hurricane stayed awake through the worst night human history has ever known. Because by morning, he would be the one carrying the storm. 3 things to take with you tonight. The first is factual. The 4 Gospels record Jesus sleeping exactly once. They record him deliberately staying awake at least 4 times. The math is not an accident. The men who walked with him for 3 years and watched him do everything wanted you to notice this. He slept once. He stayed awake the nights that mattered most. The second is personal. When you feel like God is asleep on your storm, you are reading the situation backward. Christ already slept through his storm, so the Father could keep watch over yours. The boat is not a story about a Savior who needs to be woken up. It is a story about a Savior who has already done the resting for you. And when you feel abandoned at 3 in the morning, when the waves are climbing higher than the rails of your life, remember this: the thing in you that has fallen asleep is not God. It is your faith. Wake it up. And the third, this one is the one I want you to carry home. There will come a night when you cannot sleep. A diagnosis, a phone call, a bed that suddenly has only one person in it, a child you cannot save. On that night, when you are awake in the dark and every promise you have ever believed feels thin, remember the garden. The man who slept on a cushion in a hurricane stayed awake under olive trees so you would never face your night alone. He has already done the not sleeping for you. He has already sweated the blood you cannot sweat. He has already begged the Father with words you do not have. And the same God who would not let his eyes close in Gethsemane will not let his eyes close on you. Which one hit you the hardest? The boat, the mountain, or the garden? Tell me below. I read every comment. And until next time, may the God who neither slumbers nor sleeps keep watch over your soul.